Gatorade, which is the tried and true competitor. They have a 65 share in the category. And then on the flip side, you have a brand like Klein, who essentially copycatted every single play in the Body Armor playbook. When you're leaning on celebrities to push your business and that's all you lean on and you don't build a brand, it's never going to end well.
Before we get started with today's amazing episode, I got to give a big shout out to Open Fortune. You know those fortune cookies you get after a good meal? Usually they're filled with some cryptic message about your future or a lucky number. But what if instead of a random fortune, it carried your brand's message directly into the hands of millions? That's what Open Fortune is doing. They've partnered with over 47,000 restaurants across the country, turning those little slips of paper into a powerful advertising tool. And the best part, people actually pay attention. We're talking about getting your brand in front of consumers when they're relaxed, enjoying a meal, and more receptive than ever. It's not just small businesses catching on to this trend. Big names like Goose Island, ZipRecruiter, and Duolingo are already harnessing the power of Open Fortune to reach their audience in a unique and memorable way. So if you're looking to break through the noise and connect with your audience in a creative, unexpected way, check out openfortune.com. Today on CMO Weekly, we're joined by Tom Gargiulo, the Chief Marketing Officer at Bodyarmor Sports Nutrition, where he's leading the charge for some of Coca-Cola's top sports drink brands, Bodyarmor and Powerade. Since stepping into the role in 2023, Tom's been behind major marketing campaigns, athlete partnerships, and even Bodyarmor's global expansion into Canada and Mexico. Before taking the helm at Bay Basin, Tom's career saw him shape some of the biggest names in the food and beverage industry. As the COO of the food tech startup, Knack, he built a co-manufacturing network from the ground up. At Kayak, he helped land game-changing partnerships with Delta Air and Starbucks. And as CMO of Darren, he activated the launch of two Good and Oikos Triple Zero yogurts, showing his knack for bringing innovative products to the market. Born and raised in Montclair, New Jersey, Tom's a proud New Yorker at heart, rooting for his beloved New York Giants. With an MBA from Emory University and a love for spending time with his family, Tom balances the high-paced world of marketing and a passion for sports and family life. Tom, it's great to have you here, and I got to ask it, how'd you get here, man? How'd you become the CMO of Body Armor?
Nice to meet you guys. So to be honest with you, I actually found this opportunity actually through a very close friend. I've been very fortunate in my career of building a fantastic network of, advocates and mentors throughout my career. And a lot of those people have been, key ingredients into, why I was able to land different roles and different jobs across multiple companies. And this is a great example of one. I was working at Knack's, doing the operations gig. Wanted to try something a little bit new and different than what I'm used to in marketing and sales. And, a friend and former coworker picked up the phone and called me and shared this wonderful opportunity. And, as soon as I heard, marketing and sports being partnered together, it was like a dream come true.
I like to ask people the question who've joined a company as they've already grown, right? Body Armor is already well known in many households, but what was your first experience with the brand, whether it be drinking it or seeing it, in an advertisement, and what did you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I've always followed the brand, for a few years now because of that friend I was talking about. He's the CEO of the company, so I was always a big supporter of his and root for him on the sidelines. But I've also been a consumer of Body Armor through the years, all the way back when it first launched. I remember Jason Pierre-Paul on the New York Giants was one of their spokespeople, and that was one of the reasons why I picked it up for the first time, 14 years ago or so. But it's a phenomenal brand. When I joined this organization, we've been through a bit of a change. This company was recently acquired by Coca-Cola back in 2021. And we're going through a little bit of a shift in terms of, leadership, in terms of culture, in terms of, just how we operate as an organization. And, being part of that journey, it was, challenging at times, but it was also very fulfilling at times. It was, I think it made us a lot stronger coming out of it.
On top of that, just like you said, combining marketing and sports was always a dream of yours. What was your early career ambitions? Was it marketing? Like, was it becoming an astronaut? What was young Tom really aspiring to do with his career?
Well, when I was really little, I wanted to be an architect. I don't know. I think we had somebody's dad came into school one day and kind of pulled out some blueprints, and I was just enamored with it. But eventually, going through school and going to college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was studying political science undergrad at a small liberal arts school up in Massachusetts, and I was like, do I want to be a lawyer? Do I want to be like a political aide? Do I want to do this or that? And I just couldn't come up with, that one thing that was kind of sparking a passion in me. But then eventually I came to the, realization, the one thing that absolutely I'm enamored with and something that's always been an important part of my life is sports. So I decided to take the crazy move and jump into the sports world on the business side. Working for a number of, .com startups. This is back in the late 90s, early 2000s when everybody was, creating a website and throwing out equity. And networked my way and worked my way up and eventually landed at the NFL, where I was able to actually be on the front lines of the league and, selling and managing corporate sponsorships. And, honestly, it was a dream come true. I literally had the coolest job you can imagine. And my friends certainly appreciated every time I took them to a game every weekend, but it was an amazing experience.
And the NFL has built such a strong brand, right? Where I'm curious, were all your corporate sponsors just inbound, or did you have to do any outbound at that point?
No, I mean, at the end of the day, when I joined the organization, 2 weeks after, we shifted from Coca-Cola to PepsiCo and signed a long-term relationship with them. And a week after that, we shifted from Budweiser and Miller to Coors, which was, a major shift. So everybody always claimed I was like the $500 million man, from the day that I walked into the office, because of all the deals that we landed in my first couple of weeks. But, for the most part, I was able to work on the PepsiCo business. I was able to work on Campbell's Soup, Cadillac. I was able to work on, some of the financial services, some of the insurance companies, things like that. But really where I got my, formal training was with the PepsiCo group, with Frito and Pepsi.
Which job, I guess, and even on earlier in your career, was there a moment where you realize, like, I'm really good at this. I got a knack for this, and I'm gonna keep doing this, and I'm not gonna become a lawyer?
No, absolutely. I mean, ultimately, when I got into the sports world and worked my way through, and literally I was doing internships where I was getting lunch every day, and I wasn't getting paid. I was using my own money to buy gas and drive to the office and stuff like that. And, really took it as an opportunity to kind of just network and work my way into it. But when I landed at the NFL, I became absolutely enamored with, the side of sports marketing. But eventually, that evolved. As I got more, closely connected with some of the brands I worked with, like, again, Pepsi and Frito and Gatorade and Campbell's Soup, I started to love, connecting our property with their consumer and finding ways to draft off each other's brands and build awesome programs that drove in-store execution and ultimately that drove more consumers to their brands. And after about 4 years at the NFL, I decided, that was kind of where I wanted to take my next step, and decided to do the crazy thing and leave my job and go back to business school and get that formal business training that, frankly, I never really had going to a liberal arts school. That's when I started to pursue my career in brand marketing.
A lot of people who are in their early 20s, mid 20s, late 20s consider that business school move. Did you find it pivotal and absolutely necessary, or do you think just getting more into like entrepreneurial and getting her hands dirty was a better educator?
I would say it's a little bit of both. I was in a unique position where I was kind of a career switcher. Moving from sports marketing and sports sponsorships into brand marketing, it's a completely different world. I mean, the analytical skills that are necessary to succeed, even simple things like, the soft skills on presenting and managing a conversation with higher ups and things like that. These were all the things that, I wasn't necessarily getting a ton of exposure to in my role at the NFL because I was still relatively young. I was still relatively junior. But I knew that if I wanted to succeed and make that transition into business, I needed somebody to kind of sit down with me and explain to me the, accounting and economics and analytics and, all of the foundational knowledge that you need to succeed in business. Digging into spreadsheets, understanding how to, do all the, use all the tools and resources. And it was probably the best decision I've ever made. But, if looking back, if I did go to, a university that offered a business program, I don't necessarily know if I needed to go back to business.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And I want to talk about your time at Dannon, right? I find it really interesting that you started as a customer strategy planning manager, and then within 7-8 years were the CMO, was the CMO of the yogurt division there. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's not that long of a time between, getting started there and running everything. What do you think was super crucial just to, getting the trust of your colleagues and getting into that role?
Yeah. I mean, my career at Danone was phenomenal. It was probably one of the proudest moments of my career. My journey through Danone, and a lot of it was driven by, frankly, doing hard work. I'm not the kind of person who likes to socialize with people and who likes to, climb up the ladder through relationships and things like that. I'm more of an old school kind of guy, and it was kind of taught to me by my dad, who was an entrepreneur, is, you might not be able to outsmart people, but you can outwork people. And that's what I basically did. So, I focused 100% of my energy and focused on my career, and, this is pre-kids, and, worked my ass off, spending 12 hours a day at the office. And, every single time I got an opportunity, whether it was something that I was necessarily excited about or something that the company needed, I always, opted in. And you can kind of look at how my career has kind of evolved, where, I was leading shopper marketing, then went into sales planning again, and then, went into category management, and, all of these things I've never been, I've never had a ton of experience doing, but, took each role as an opportunity to learn and grow and leave my mark. And, that was one of those things where, I try to create a defining moment in every single opportunity I had. And, throughout my career, I started to build the trust and started to, show the results. And leadership gave me more and more opportunity.
What was the why behind that, Tom? Like you talking about 12-hour days, starting off, within 8-year time span, going from, like you said, the planning and the planning management all the way up to CMO. Like, what was that fire inside you that said, I'm going to do it,
Yeah. So this is getting a little personal, but, I'm the youngest of 3 boys in my family, and my 2 brothers, I was cursed being born into a family of overachievers. My 2 older brothers are, they both went to Ivy League schools. They both graduated at the top of their class. They were both Division I athletes. They were, both graduated and went on to have highly successful careers, making very good money, living in, beautiful locations. And, I was not always the greatest student, I'll be honest. I was able to kind of keep my head above water and, do okay, but, I wasn't necessarily like bringing home, the 1580s on the SATs and, and the A pluses on all the advanced, placement classes. So, I knew that if I wanted to kind of live up to the Gargiulo standard, it probably wasn't going to be through academics. It was going to have to be through hard work. And that's really what drove me. Is I saw what my dad did in terms of, he basically took a leap of faith and started his own company, made it highly successful, and eventually sold it and retired. And a lot of it had to do with the 15-hour days that he put into it. My mom eventually started to work for him. I started to go to the office after school every day. It was something that the whole family was involved in, and I always appreciated it.
Yeah, my dad was an entrepreneur too, and it teaches you something I remember packing up boxes in his office, and at 10 years old in the summer, instead of playing sports personally in that time.
Yeah, exactly.
And learning like, hey, we got to do this together and we have to be in it. And that's something I think is invaluable, and something I try to teach my kids. Like they don't just get what they want. I make them work for it and give them special projects, something that they have to do, because if not, like I can't miss out. One more question, I'll pass it back to David. A lot about sports, and I think I know a little bit of the answer based on your last answer. But curious, like, what's the why behind sports? You talked about this at the time of Jim Conchu, working with the NFL, you made that switch to get more from a business side perspective, get the MBA, learn the ins and outs on every aspect of what it takes business from a marketing perspective. And now you're at the intersection of what you would call your dream job, which is sports and marketing combined, something that works within that realm. What is it about sports that moves you? What's your why behind it?
I'm just a naturally competitive person. And, growing up in a family, again, with all the boys, all athletes growing up, I mean, sports was at the center of our lives. Growing up in the New York area and watching Don Mattingly play for the Yankees and Patrick Ewing play for the Knicks and, Lawrence Taylor and Phil Simms playing for the Giants, it just became an obsession of mine, starting with actually playing, but then eventually as I got older, realizing I probably didn't have a career in actually playing sports, becoming a fanatic. And, as a result of that, it's been something, it's almost like the place that I go to, every night or every weekend, where I can kind of just release myself from all the stress and all the craziness of my life, and sit down and root my ass off for my teams.
Love it. Sorry you're a Giants fan like me. It's not starting.
Yes, it's been a tough year, but
I don't see it getting better either.
I always like to say, to an Eagles fan, well, I got to see 4 Super Bowls in my life.
Damn right. Dust the shoulders off.
It might suck now, but
yeah, it's all right. It's a building year.
I'm curious, just like Oikos as a brand, back to Danone, like I find it so interesting because you guys decided to brand yogurt black, which is kind of unique and definitely like eye-catching. You have to start with attention, but I'm curious, like, what was the psychology behind that decision? It's still out there with its initial branding, with being bold. So, why was that the decision, and how's it been going since?
When I joined Danone, it was a very unique time in the yogurt category, specifically where Greek yogurt was this like new upcoming thing. I mean, now you walk into a grocery store, it's probably 80% of the category. It's just become the new standard. But back then, you had a brand like Faye come onto the scene. You had a brand like Chobani come onto the scene and absolutely just set the category on fire. It was a product that delivered more benefits. It was a product that tasted better, and it was a product that actually monetized the category. So it brought in a lot of incremental dollars because of the price premium. And eventually at Danone, we launched our own brand called Oikos. And there's a long story behind how it came to be. But we launched this brand, and we did okay initially. It was kind of just going along. We were kind of playing on the Greek boom. Pricing was kind of the one thing that we really hung our hat on. We were one of the most affordable options. We did a Super Bowl ad with John Stamos. I don't know if you guys remember that. That kind of helped the trajectory of the brand. But we weren't necessarily making significant progress against, beating the likes of Faye and Chobani. And eventually we came, to the conclusion the best way for us to beat them isn't necessarily to, come with better marketing or, come with a better tasting product. It was to out-innovate them. And one of the products that, our R&D team at the time put together was a higher protein, lower sugar version of Oikos. And the whole idea around it was, how do we start growing the pie of Greek yogurt where it was predominantly consumed by females? So this was an opportunity for us to start appealing to males and start cutting into, the protein bars and the protein shakes of the world and other categories like that. We wanted to be bold. We wanted to be different. We wanted to really stand out on shelf. And, we decided to launch the brand in black. But believe it or not, the folks over in France said no. And they told us we couldn't. And we had to launch it in a blue cup. And the product absolutely bombed the first couple of months of its launch. And, long story short, there was a leadership change over in France, and there was a new leader. He gave us a little bit more of room to operate, and we switched it over to black. We signed the NFL and became an official sponsor, and the brand absolutely blew up. It became the fastest growing brand in the category, and took the Oikos brand to a completely another level where it started to really compete against the likes of Chobani and Faye.
Love it. What was the reason behind the black?
Just because it was different. I mean, when you look at a shelf, it's a sea of white and blue. That's just and a little bit of red. That's just how the category is always operated. And
different is important.
Yeah, we wanted to do two things. One is appeal to men. So, doing it with a white package or a blue package or a red package probably wasn't going to cut it. So we figured black was probably the appropriate color. But at the time, it was literally the only black product on the shelf, and it stuck out like a sore thumb, which was awesome.
I've always, I'm really, selfishly just happy that we got to speak about that, because I've seen Oikos branding and we're just like, whoever did that, smart move, because it's just pretty simple of, hey, everything else is white, let's make it black. And, not that was the most simple thing to, get across the line, I bet, but the fact that it worked is kind of cool, and just showing that, you got to grab attention in different ways. And it's clear that Oikos did that. I want to jump into, Kind, we only have about 20, 30 minutes left, Kind and Body Armor as well, but just like a combination of both, right? Like Kind and Body Armor are both health-focused brands, but in different categories. What similarities and differences did you find in building brand loyalty for these types of products?
Yeah, I mean, moving to Kind was a fantastic opportunity. I mean, part of the reason why I loved working at Danone was the U.S. was always considered a developing market. You think the U.S. as a developing market in this category, you're absolutely nuts. But you go over to France and you see, 60 feet of yogurt in grocery stores. I mean, it's ridiculous. You walk into the U.S., the average set size was 16 feet. And, what I loved about it is they gave us the room to operate, except for that 000 example that I gave before. And we basically operated as almost like a startup. We're super scrappy, super resourceful. It wasn't about who it was about how hard you worked, and that's what meritocracy was the true kind of factor that set people apart. And eventually, as Danone progressed and acquired Whiteley, became a much bigger company, and that culture, that original culture that I love so much, started to water down a little bit. And I wanted to get back to that, and was given another call by a former manager. Called me and said, you need to come over here. I think we got a really great opportunity for you. And it was exactly what I was looking for. It was that same entrepreneurial, resource starved, scrappy, work your ass off kind of environment, and led by a brilliant founder And it truly was an amazing experience. You know, it was a little bit of a learning curve getting kind of used to, competing against Cliff, and General Mills was a familiar foe, but very, very unique brand. You know, we were still seen as kind of like the cool brand, you know, that was kind of the one that won against the grain. And it gave us a lot of opportunity and room for us to kind of do the things that we wanted to do, and do activations like, you know, dropping, thousands of pounds of sugar in the middle of Times Square to show consumers how much sugar they're consuming, but with the bars that they're buying, and doing some crazy things like that. And, you know, that's what got us seen, and that's what built the brand to over $1 billion.
I have a question off that. At Open Fortune, we're big believers, kind of like we talked about before, of like doing things differently, standing out. How important do you think it is for a brand to do things like that, dumping tons of sugar in Times Square versus what you would call the tried and true? Like, do you have a framework around that, or you're like, hey, we have to do this innovative, crazy, sometimes you can even call it stunty thing. Yeah. In order for people to really take note. And has that worked most of the time, or just sometimes, like, what situations has it failed? How do you come about saying, like, this is the moment to do it versus let's stay conservative and let's just do what we've done before?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think what it comes down to is the resources you have available to you. At Kind, not to say that our budgets were tiny, but they certainly not what they were when, Mars acquired them and became part of a bigger company. So, and our founder was also a firm believer that the way to get noticed isn't necessarily traditional media, it was earned media. And, that's one of the reasons why, he pursued, placement in Starbucks and pursued placements in Delta and, different key places in the New York City area, because he wanted people to see the brand being connected with some of the more premium and habitual brands in the market. So, earned media was kind of the name of the game, and that's what brought this brand from obscurity to a brand that everybody knows and recognizes. And, at the time it made complete sense. And the same with Body Armor. Followed a very similar, trajectory in terms of, how the brand got noticed and, how it was, became something out of nothing. But as you grow older in your life as a brand, and as you start to hit certain milestones with, dollar sales and awareness levels and household penetration levels, sometimes that stuff doesn't necessarily play as big of a role because you're not reaching the masses when you're doing things like that. And that's when you start to look at, traditional media and the likes of like digital and stuff like that. But the name of the game now is, how do you break through that clutter? So you might not be doing the pop-up stunts and stuff like that you once were, but how do you bring excitement and breakthrough content through the likes of traditional media?
Absolutely. And I'm curious, just right, with the soft drink, athletic beverage space is so saturated. I feel like I turn around left and I see another celebrity starting another drink combo.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. Yeah. And it seems like they're all working, which is also nuts. But
that's what you might think.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. They got funding. But I'm curious, right? When you're taking on Gatorade and bigger players like Prime coming in now, what strategies are you using, to stay on brand and stay true to you, but also, drive sales and rev?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think, you have to kind of look at it from two different aspects. You have Gatorade, which is the tried and true competitor. They have a 65 share in the category. They've been the dominant player in the category since basically this category was created back in the 60s by Gatorade. And then on the flip side, you have a brand like Prime, who, essentially copycatted every single play in the Body Armor playbook. They took the product and basically replicated it. They went to all the co-manufacturers that we produce our product in, They decided to use, celebrities and gave them a ton of equity, which is exactly what Body Armor did way back in the day. They started tapping into a much younger audience, and was seen as kind of the cool kids on the block. Now our eyes have always been on Gatorade because they're the tried and true. They're the competitor that's going to be here for the next 20 years. And we always have to think of the long game. We can't get too far down the path of focusing our energy on the likes of a Prime and other brands that are coming onto the scene in like a flash in the pan. What we decided to do is, invest a lot more in, mass awareness and, consumption driving tactics. We shifted our mix away from like your traditional TV to more, media partnerships and sponsorships. So, instead of, buying, a 2-month flight of TV, we decided to invest that money into a relationship with Barstool Sports and a relationship with Dude Perfect, tapping into a younger demographic, integrating our products into more content. And it's really worked for us. If you look at our awareness numbers, they're up big time as a result of that. Now, Gatorade continues to have a ton of money and continues to do well in the market, except for the last few months. But Prime has absolutely imploded. They're trending negative 40% month after month after month. And it just shows that, when you're leaning on celebrities to push your business and that's all you lean on and you don't build a brand, it's never going to end well.
So, obviously different category than you guys, but in the beverage space. So client of ours that we're about to launch with soon, Liquid Death, they do some incredible things from a marketing perspective with sponsor partners like NASCAR, what they're doing right now. If you've seen whether it's, when you're thinking about sponsorships, are you trying to say again?
Yeti, I think they just did
Yeti, yeah, exactly. Elf Beauty. Yep. Yeah. Beautiful. Just genius. They're working with us. They're going to be doing misfortune cookies. So it's going to be black cookies with misfortunes inside, like better watch your back, right? Liquid Death, something like that.
Yeah.
So long story short, what I'm trying to ask here is when you're thinking about, coming up with that fun, crazy brand play, or maybe with a sponsor partner, right? Are you trying to kind of push the line a little bit, or kind of doing what the sponsor puts in front of you and saying like, hey, this is what we have, this is what we do? Like, how does that relationship evolve? Like, how do you get to do something like what they're doing with NASCAR? Like, what do you have to do in order to do that? And is that something you're even interested in?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately the way, when it comes to partnerships and some of the, media partners that we work with, I mean, we're leveraging them for two reasons. One is we're trying to tap into their consumer base, but also they are the absolute expert in their respective field. I remember being in a meeting with Dude Perfect, earlier this year, and it was the Body Armor brand team and them, and I said, there's two groups of people in this room, and only one group has 100 million followers on social media. So we're gonna let you guys take the lead and tell us how we should activate our brand, through your property. Now, there's certain non-negotiables about, how our product is, shared, and, we have to stay true to what our brand's about. But, we want to tap into these partners and leverage these partners the way that, their fans want to be spoken to, the way that their viewers want to consume their content. And we're just trying to be there for the ride and try to be at the moments where our product makes the most sense. So, for us, it's who are we trying to speak to? What are the properties that make the most sense and partners that make the most sense for us? And how do we, make sure that, we're kind of speaking through their language to their consumers and their fans?
I like that. I'm really curious, for us, we consider ourselves like a sponsorship play too. Obviously very different than sports, where like people sponsor the moment where people are opening up their fortune cookies around. How do you measure like the sponsorship partners that you have? Like, what is it that you're looking for? How do you measure that awareness? Is it something that they provide for you? Is it something that you're doing, from a third party or internally on your own? Like, what is success there? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think success, it could be a number of different, you look at it through a number of different ways. I think, for us, like when we looked at the NHL, we looked at it through multiple lenses, including, the media value that they're able to deliver through the partnership, the credibility that we're able to, deliver through the sideline exposure and the athletes using the product, their youth programs that we're able to integrate our product into, and things of the like. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to, is it moving the needle for our brand? Is it driving household penetration? Is it driving awareness? Is it driving consideration? And we have, through one of the benefits of working with Coca-Cola, they have models and models and models that we can tap into that can help us kind of measure that. So, it's something that we're constantly looking at, both in terms of how do we continue to refine these relationships and improve them, but also, where is there an opportunity for us to maybe look that may be off the beaten path or slightly different. I think the relationship we have with Anita, the relationship we have with Deep Perfect, the relationship we have with Barstool, relationships we have with, some exciting players that we're going to be announcing soon, all come from a place of, are they moving up in their career? Do they have the audience that we want to talk to? And do they fit the Body Armor brand? And as long as they check all those boxes, we're going to do business.
So to start those relationships off, it's a little bit more subjective and gut feel on the brand than it is objective. And then you measure the results to see if it's something you want to continue on or not.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent. I mean, I think some of the more heavier investments like the NHL, because it is a multi-year deal and it is multi-millions of dollars. We did put a lot of due diligence into doing our homework and looking at it through the lens of like, all right, is this the right business decision? But at the end of the day, a lot of our athlete partners, we do use our gut in some of those instances, and we do lean on, the trends in the sports world, and we do lean in on the stories that these athletes have to tell to help us make those selections.
I love it. I always find that interesting, how brands made the criteria in the decision, the evaluation process to work with media partners, sponsorships, even us.
Yeah.
Like every brand's a little bit different in their methodology.
I was in the sports agencies space prior to where I'm working now. And what relationships do you have with the agents, and how much does it actually matter, the relationship with the agents versus like, these are just good athletes, we're going to work with them, or I like working with these agents, they over deliver, I'm going to work with their athletes?
I mean, it's a little bit of both. I mean, at the end of the day, there's certain athletes that we believe just completely fit our brand, and we'll find ways to work with them. But then there are other athletes that aren't necessarily great partners, and their agencies don't necessarily see the value in them going above and beyond maybe what's in their contract. And those are the relationships we don't tend to continue. Over the years, we've been able to, build some good relationships with a couple of the bigger agencies. Some of our athletes share agents, Joe Burrow and Christian McCaffrey share agents. We're always in the know on who's moving where and what's going on. But at the end of the day, our priority is what's best for our brand. We'll work with anybody and anybody as long as they're the right fit for the brand and the message we're trying to communicate.
What do you guys do outside of sports? Like where is everyone? Because obviously Body Armor is delicious. And, one thing that I think as an example that Prime did well was they got every young kid to want to drink this thing, right? Like for at least a period of time, maybe not forever, but at least a period of time. What are the things that you're doing that's outside of sports that you think are really going to pay off?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we launched this awesome brand earlier this year called Flash IV, which is a rapid rehydration drink. So it has, basically 3 times the amount of electrolytes that a single bottle of Bodyarmor has. And it's, a big category in the Mexican market. That's where the category was kind of born, in Mexico and Southeast Asia. And, a lot of it having to do with the medicinal impact that it has. People drink it to, replenish their electrolytes when they're sick and stuff like that. But we've really started to leverage this brand to kind of break through beyond sport. And that's one of the reasons why we decided to partner with Anita. It's a great opportunity for us to tap into kind of like, the concert culture. It's a great opportunity for us to kind of tap into, college campuses and, the Greek world and things like that. And, talk to a completely new and different demographic, but more importantly, talk about different usage occasions that maybe traditional sports drinks might not be, directly connected with.
Are you doing that also for Bodyarmor?
Yes, we are to a certain extent. Bodyarmor is always going to be rooted in sport.
Sure.
Because, that's the category we play in.
Yep.
But we have looked into, other partners and other ways to talk to other individuals. I mean, we had Olivia Culpo was a big part of our Zero launch. She's an amazing influencer that did a fantastic job of getting us in front of, a new audience, who might not necessarily be following Joe Burrow on Instagram. But we're also leveraging other communities that we are highly relevant in. One of the key insights of our Bodyarmor Light product is a majority of our weekly plus consumers, they're people that buy our product on a weekly basis, in our light business, actually got first exposed to the brand in either during pregnancy or after giving birth.
Real.
And the reason for that is because doctors always tell, whether you're pregnant or you're breastfeeding, always stay hydrated. And, there's a lot of people out there that, want to find the shortcut. Water does great things, but, want that a little extra flavor, a little jazz it up a little bit. And the great thing about Bodyarmor is that our electrolytes are delivered through potassium. And not necessarily sodium like traditional sports drinks like Gatorade. So they're not raising their sodium levels to crazy high levels, and they're getting exposed to a fantastic product. So we think there's a lot of rich opportunity in this space, especially with the product, and we're in the process of building a relaunch plan for it. But that's an example where we're tapping into a completely different community that nobody's ever really thought of before with sports drinks.
That's super, super interesting. And I think that's a great place to start a quick question round. How's that sound?
Sure.
Sweet. Before we get started, just want to give a big shout out for Open Fortune for making this podcast possible. So first question, person you'd most want to sit down to dinner with, dead or alive?
I'll say Don Mattingly.
Love it.
My idol.
Same, man.
Awesome.
Favorite city in the world?
New York City, no question.
Is it okay to sleep with socks on?
No.
Yes.
I'm getting
that going on, Tom, and you were making.
And I'm like,
$100
it's over. I just got to pay out.
Thank you, sir.
Favorite
never sleep with socks on. It's psychotic. And I think, and David, this is his thing. To my son's room, I take his socks off at night.
Big news.
No.
Fake news. I think it's okay.
It's not okay. Not okay.
My wife might agree with you, but I'm definitely no sock guy.
Yeah.
So, favorite rom-com?
Favorite rom-com? I don't really watch rom-coms all that much, but what's the one with Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Aniston?
The Breakup.
Yeah.
That's the third time we've heard that in like a month and a half. That's incredible.
So good.
No, she's going off about it, about her sister.
Yeah,
like,
it's so good.
That's the funniest part.
It's so good.
Best spot to eat in New York.
Best what?
Best spot to eat.
Spot to eat? I'm gonna have to go with Peter Luger's.
Peter Luger's. On the island or Brooklyn?
Brooklyn. You got to go to the original.
There you go. Favorite Holy Cross grad?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm gonna go with Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Right. That's a good one. I didn't
right there.
Yeah, he did. We have a couple of other people like Clarence Thomas, but we're and some other Gordy Lockbaum. Got some good ones.
In 40 years from now, what will people be nostalgic for?
I'm gonna say like going back to like CDs and cassettes for music.
Top 3 brands right now that you're just a fan of.
That I'm a fan of. I'm gonna say Apple. I mean, that's trying. I'm an absolute fanboy. I am I pre-order every single product that they sell.
What's your thoughts? You like the Vision Pro?
That's the one product I don't have because I can't justify spending $3,500 on it.
It's cool, but it's not. I tried it. It's like, no, it's not it.
I did spend $2,000 on the new iPad, so I have that, but I couldn't bring myself to the Vision Pro. Another brand is Nike. You know, I think they've always done a fantastic job of bringing a unique style and a unique spin to the market. You know, even though there's other brands like On and some of these other brands that kind of come onto the scene, I mean, you know, they always have the best advertising. They always have the best technology. They always have, the coolest drops. And it's something that I always have appreciated.
Make you feel, too. You do a good job with that.
Yeah, exactly. And a third one, I'm going to have to say, so I don't own one, but it's on my bucket list, is Tesla. I just think those guys just know, you know, the fact that they've transformed that company so many different times, as wacky as Elon Musk is, the fact that they've transformed their company from, you know, starting with cars, now talking about AI and robotics and things like that. I mean, they're really, I think they've really found this niche of constantly being kind of the pioneers into new spaces that are going to change people's lives.
Agreed. And also there's nothing better than when you get your mother-in-law in the car, you can make her think that she farted.
Yeah, exactly.
That incredible feature. I love that.
One of the reasons why I want to get one.
Worst advice you've ever been given?
You don't need to go back to business school. You have everything you need in this shop. Who's
somebody you think should hop on this podcast?
One of my good friends is the president of Diageo beer. She's amazing. Somebody that I would strongly recommend that you guys talk to. She's done some incredible work. And she's one of the most brilliant people I know.
That'd be awesome. What's her name?
Laura Merritt.
And then lastly, in 10 years from now, you could catch Tom Gargiulo blank.
Probably sitting club level seats in Giant Stadium or MetLife Stadium watching the Giants beat the Eagles.
Love it.
Manifestation, my friend.
Yeah. Watching Arch Manning throw for 450 yards and 5 touchdowns.
There you go.
Amazing.
I love it.
Well, Tom, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.